Here is Nick Fuentes, he would identify as a white supremacist, as a hater of Israel for sure. And here he is talking to Candace Owens, a black woman, and they're talking, she's saying, oh, you should be married. She's trying to attack him. He's coming in response, but that's not what I want to talk about. There's one sentence he says that I think exposes something that American Jews, diaspora Jews need to hear. Listen to this.
You know, my life has been tumultuous from the very beginning. From the time I turned 18, people were coming for my neck and trying to get me, and I was kicked out of college. And then, you know, once you're branded as an anti-Semite, before it became cool or popular, can't get a job, can't make a living, get banned from PayPal, all this kind of stuff. You know, that's a very difficult...
You hear that, Yishai? He said before it became cool,
right,
before it became popular.
Right.
It is now cool. It is popular to come out against the Jews. The masks are off. So let's delve a little bit deeper on what's really happening here. Why is it happening?
Are you sure that he's anti-Israel? Or I have noticed that in the past, countries that were anti-Semitic, let's say like Hungary, had a lot of anti-Semitism. Turns out today that they're our allies because they were more xenophobic than anti-Semitic. They just didn't want foreigners in their land. But once we are a separate nation state, they have no problem working with us, cooperating with us, and actually cooperating on anti-jihadism. So are you sure that Nick Fuentes hates Israel per se?
So before I did my deep dive, that would have been a fair question because, you know, I was interviewed on Louis Theroux. I'm the thumbnail for his documentary called The Settlers, right? He wants to make Israel look as bad as possible. Start, middle, and end, Ari Abramowitz. And I actually, for the first time, it's interesting how he cut and sliced and diced me to make me look super extreme, but I actually thought it made Israel look pretty good.
And that was one of your tactics, right? One of your tactics was to go so extreme was that like he wasn't going to be able to cut anything out.
Right, but what I said was, I don't mind if he makes me look like a wild-eyed extremist, as long as it's the wild-eyed extremist that I actually am.
Right.
Don't lie, don't distort.
Right.
And so I was starting to really admire Nick Fuentes on that front. He's saying what he sees as truth. Candace Owens came again and said, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And he came out and said, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. If Ben Shapiro was killed, you would say Israel killed Ben Shapiro. They didn't kill Charlie Kirk. There's real reasons to hate the Jews, he says.
Right.
Don't make up stuff, right? But then I hear him say, no, Israel's committing genocide. Look at this. Watch this clip.
Food, no medical supplies. And this is in the middle of a brutal, one-sided, asymmetrical, you can't even call it a war. Because a war would imply that there's shooting on both sides or that there's some level of parity. Or even that the conflict is originating from both sides, but it isn't. The Palestinians have even lost their ability to counterattack. Hamas, nearly every one of its garrisons has been destroyed. So this is now just a one-sided, it's like shooting fish in the barrel, pardon the expression, but this is just a straight-up genocide. These people are starving. They're literally dying.
So, okay, so he's saying that Israel's committing genocide. That is unquestionably a modern blood libel.
Yeah,
right?
it's a lie, and it's disingenuous, and it really, I don't want to say I'm disappointed in Nick Fuentes, but it disappointed me in him. Yeah, that's why I find myself struggling when I look at Candace Owens, and I look at Nick
Candace
Fuentes.
Owens she's a vile anti-Semite in the plainer sense.
Right, okay, no, first of all, he is too. He's just had 10 years to craft his art and moderate himself to sound moderate so it can happen in phases. The guy's he's much smarter than Candace Owens in his approach to this. She's just coming from this visceral, raw hatred. But even so, I find myself struggling to be angry at her or to hate her because I remember her when she was so regal and eloquent and standing for truth to power, being in Congress, talking against the Democratic Party and how they're using blacks in America. And now I see her, and it's clear that she's got this spirit of hatred against Israel and the Jewish people that is overwhelming her. And I can't help but to have a little bit of respect for people like Fuentes and Carlson and Candace Owens, that they're almost like Amalek. When Israel left Egypt, right? And the whole world was like, oh, the God of Israel just parted the sea and everyone was afraid. Amalek was the first one to attack them, cooled off this fire of fear and reverence that the world had for him.
But
they were
that's
the
the
ones
difference.
to jump in. But let me just finish here. They were the first ones to jump in and really attack Israel and the Jews, saying, Hineni, here I am, God. I am answering the call that you're clearly sending in my heart. I'm being true to the message you're putting in my heart, they're saying, which when you look at the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 16, verse 16. He says, first I will send fishers to my people, right? What is fishers? People with bait. You were a fisher for me, Yishai. You really brought into my head the excitement and the passion and the mission and the purpose, the joy of living in Israel. And you were broadcasting that to the world. Fishers saying, come home, nation of Israel, to the land of Israel. We've been praying for it. It's so exciting. And those that were listening to that message, that wanted that bait, that wanted to come, they came. Now, God says in the second part of that verse, I'm going to send the hunters. I'm going to send the hunters to bring my people home. They're rising to the occasion and they're fulfilling that role. What do we think? For thousands of years, the most prophesied prophecy throughout the entire Tanakh is the ingathering of the exiles. But it's going to stop at Brooklyn? Right. It's going to stop in Miami or LA?
Right.
Of course not. It's happening now. And so what's happening is the light of redemption is starting to shine. The nations are feeling it. They're feeling the threat of that light to their control over things. And so they are going with zeal to fight against it, with rage and hatred.
Okay. But if I had to have anybody in the studio right now here with us, I wouldn't want Tucker because I feel like he's a big liar. And I feel like he just poo-poos everything. And I wouldn't want Candace because I think she's just nutty. This guy Fuentes, he has something that I like. What is that? He has a respect, an awe, a fear of the Jewish people. You get a sense that he's like, these people are truly powerful, truly unique. He keeps talking about the fact that they have a togetherness around the planet. He talks about the fact that they have each other's back. He talks about that they have this country, Israel, that's going to become very powerful. He sees that we're going to be able to, have a temple in Jerusalem. He fears it, but he acknowledges it. He's not just talking about, like Candace Owens is just trying to say, all the Jewish people are just a bunch of philanderers. All they do is do pedophilia. Like she reduces it to some kind of, lie, obviously, but also a very base anti-Semitism. He's saying these people are surviving through time. They're going to build that third temple. They're using our America, and I don't like that, but there's a power to them that he respects. And I like that. Right. I prefer his posture, which I think is much truer than the posture of just like a low-grade type of hate.
Let's zoom in for a second on that left wokeism and understand what is the psychology, the deep subconscious psychology of these Jews that are advocating this, what is clearly immoral, destructive, poisonous ideologies in America. They believe, looking back, they have a deep subconscious cognizance that eventually, everywhere we go, we are reflexively hated and uprooted and spit out. So if they advocate the most extreme forms of tolerance, then they will definitely be clumped in to that tolerance. They will be the recipients.
So it's a survival mechanism.
It's a survival mechanism.
Which affects a whole country's way of looking at things.
That's
and
right.
He's saying, I don't want that.
And that's the irony, is that when you're afraid of something, you're not aware, but you're actually maximizing the probability that that very thing you're afraid of will manifest itself in the world. So the Jews are so afraid of that they have actually facilitated it with this woke leftism that is so repulsive to people like me and you, and also Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, and most good right-thinking
I don't want
people.
to put Tucker because Tucker has flipped in a way that's just like and Candace. I don't respect them. I don't respect them because I can feel that their hate is either bought or just vile or is the cool thing to do, and they flip-flopped. I don't like that. You know what I mean? This guy's never flip-flopped. He's only moderated a little bit. You know what I mean?
I think that I wouldn't dismiss them like that. I think there's different things to learn from each one of them. Mm-hmm. Different parts of the collective communal nationalist psyche of those turning against Israel that Tucker represents and that Candace represents, and it's worth taking a deep dive into both of them just to see that.
This is a people that there's no other people like this in the world. In a sense, what I like about Fuentes, and I say like in quote marks, is that he respects and fears the Jewish people, as I've said before. But he also seems to have almost a religious sense about the Jewish people. And this is, to me, the big difference between Fuentes and Nick, and what's his name?
Carlson.
And Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. They despise Christian Zionism they despise a sense that the Bible says that these people are unique, like you just said. They despise the idea that God has created Israel and that Israel is a godly creation. They despise that idea. I don't know if he does or doesn't. He seems to have a more fear of what's going on. He fears what Israel could become. But those other guys, they do not. And this is really the crux of it all. I think one of the most important clips that I've seen in the last many, many months, and there's been so many clips, of all the discussions was the one interview where Tucker Carlson's interviewing Ted Cruz. And he says to Ted Cruz, well, let's just watch it.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis, but so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what, hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
the
God's referring to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
So as you could see, Ari, Tucker Carlson asks Ted Cruz, he says to him, is this Israel, the Israel of today, is that the Israel of the Bible? And I think that Ted Cruz bunted or kind of hit a single where he could have hit a grand slam, because it could have been a moment for so many people to see the truth that he has inside his heart and his father, etc., which is, and I don't need to be a Christian. I just need to be a Bible believer to know this. This Israel is that Israel. This is the third commonwealth. This is the reborn Israel. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for, with all of its problems. And if you know the Bible, you see that the Israel of today is like the Israel of the past.